Today is a combination of days. Those of you who have been around the church a long time would remember that today is Mothering Sunday. It's an age-old tradition where young women who were in the service of some lord of some manor somewhere would have one day a year to visit their families. And it was on this day. And they would get the chance to go home to see their mothers. And on the way, they would pick flowers for their mother. This is one of the reasons why, even if a church is not celebrating the harvest, we put flowers in the church in memory of that act of love and generosity in offering the flowers for mothers. It was also at that time that the young women would bake something called a simnel cake, a very rich and sweet cake, something that a lady here baked for us a couple of years. I haven't seen it lately, but Juliet, right? Right. So it was wonderful. It was a very sweet cake that they baked for their mothers and took them home. But it was also in a different setting. Mothering Sunday was also thought of as the Sunday when all of the little churches, church chapels of ease as they would call them, would go to the mother church. Like, for example, here in St. Thomas, the folks from Holy Innocents would come to the mother church, which would have been St. Thomas within that kind of arrangement. At the cathedral, you would have had All Souls coming down, and you would have had the St. Cyprian's coming down, the daughter churches coming to mother church. And so that was what the whole idea of Mothering Sunday came to be understood as. One to do with those servant girls, and the other to do with the various daughter churches going to the mother church. And so today we've used the readings for Mothering Sunday as opposed to Harvest or Lent 4. Because we want to be able to look at today as that understanding of mothering and see where we can go with it as we bring all the other things together today. The fourth Sunday of Lent, Refreshment Sunday, when we take a break from our severe Lenten observance, which I hope you're doing. And then also the whole idea of the harvest festival. Paul, in the reading from the Colossians, says, bear with one another. Bear with one another. And I want to use that this morning as my reflection, to bear with one another. Within the context of all that we are trying to do today. Bear with one another. The church has a significant place in the lives of any community. The church is that place that is intended to remind us of the bigger picture. The larger purpose. That beyond what we see with our eyes. The church is intended to strip away all the minuscule stuff of life. All the things that cause us to be divided and to be bitter with each other. And the church invites us into an expanded experience. An expanded experience of life. The church invites us into abundance. Into abundance. Harvest is one of those places where we can begin to understand this. Mothering Sunday is yet another avenue through which we can understand this. In the story about Moses, we heard this morning, the Hebrew children were all supposed to be killed, all the boys. But Pharaoh's daughter saw this one Hebrew boy. A wonderful scheme put together by the mother that causes the child's life to be saved. And the woman ends up asking the very mother to come and nurse the child and care for it and love it. Love it. This is supposed to help us to think about the loving nature of God as mother. I know some of us who have been brought up in the church and said that God is a he, God is a he, God is a he. I'm going to tell you, God is neither he, she, nor he, she, or she, he. God is nothing of those sort of things, because that's all that we're doing in order to be able to understand God through our own eyes. But if God isn't mother, then we're in real trouble, because it is the mothering of God that sustains us. It is that motherly nature of God that keeps us from day to day, that feeds us and keeps body and soul together. But in the mothering of God, there is something that is going on that is so important. I think that all of us in our lives would have experienced this from our own mothers. There is in that mothering a kind of a hidden message. A hidden message that says, as I have loved you, you ought to love others. It is in real mothering that a child experiences love. And because the child experiences love, the child is in a place where they want to give love. You can always tell children that are loved up. Huh? You can always tell children that no love in the family. They give you a hug and they squeeze. They squeeze with all the little might. They squeeze. When you know love, you give love. It seems to be this wonderful little treasure that God has placed in us that says, give it away. Pass it on. It isn't for just you. And this happens in all aspects of our lives. We're never to think that because, for example, we may live in a comfortable home and we have all the amenities, we must never think that God loves us better than the other person. Neither must we think that because we are brilliant according to human standards, and we have gotten our degrees or we have qualified ourselves in our professions, is that because of all of that we have gotten ourselves where we are now. Because I tell you, there are lots of people that are very brilliant that don't even have a job. So it is God, in God's motherly care, that provides for us. But you ask, so doesn't God in his motherly care provide for the fellow who doesn't have anything? And I say yes. As I have loved you, so must you love one another. The abundance that I have given you, it's not for you. It is for somebody else. And I'm probably preaching to the choir, because all of us have probably come up in homes within the context of this Barbadian culture that the family of 4 or 5 had a saucepan that big. And somehow, without people being gluttons, at the end of the day, it was never thrown away. Because Somebody's got something. Or the mother would say, not them, oh yes, you gotta find something that right without mashed up flour gill thing. When you go down the road, give this to Miss Archer for me. Tell her I send it. And don't forget to give this to Mr. Mark. Tell him that I send it. Because when he got limes, he sent them by me. What kind of way? And it is passed on. It was an understanding that I don't have anything that is mine. I have for all of us. And so I pass it on. Passed it on. And so there was nothing named hunger in a community because we passed it on. We passed it on. Nowadays, we throw away a lot of food. It's unheard of in times past. Because we don't understand anymore that we have what we have in order to pass it on. Mothering Sunday, the motherhood of God, is the given to you in order that you may pass on. I was sharing with the congregation this morning, and I was saying to them that a few years ago, one of the politicians, in presenting his estimates, decided to give a $15,000 tax credit to Barbadians. You remember that? You don't remember that? Oh, okay. But in his presentation, he said, I'm doing this so that you can now go and hire somebody to cut your lawn. That you can hire someone to wash up your dishes. What was he saying? He was saying, I'm giving this to you not for you, not so you become richer, but I'm giving this to you so that you can participate in helping others. But you know what, Bajans went to Puerto Rico. So there is that sense of coming to a place where we need to learn how to participate in the abundance. Because participating in the abundance causes abundance to flow. To participate in abundance means I don't hoard it, but I participate in it like a river. I use what I need and I let the rest flow. But more and more we become in a world that we're building dams in the middle of the river. We don't sure what we want to do with the rest of the water. We don't have a plan for it yet, but we keep it just in case. Meanwhile, the fella down the road, down the river, has a trickle of water. But after all, I work to get upriver. I work hard to get upriver. So if he wants more water, he needs to work hard to get upriver. It's such a horror in our world. One of the things we look at even our agricultural industry, and we pay next skin to nothing. Why? Because persons don't have paper behind their name, but they work harder than many of us, and they don't have paper. But because we don't have paper, our world says you don't deserve as much. You work as a shop assistant, and because you're a shop assistant and you're serving the world and you're taking everybody's crap, but you don't have paper, so we're not going to give you much. The church is mother. The church is mother, and the church is saying, like any mother, I love all my children. I love them differently, but I love all my children. Because I love all my children, we as church, we have to be able to participate in that loving of others. We have to cry out for justice for peer persons. We have to look at our own selves and see in what ways we are contributing to the lack of participating by many others. Mothering Sunday must bring to your mind and to my mind the way in which God mothers us and the way in which we are called to mother others. Because that's who we are. If we are made in the imago Dei, in the image of God, if we are made in the image of God, it means that God's nature is our nature. And if God's nature is the mother, then our nature must be the mother. And so this morning, as a part of our way of reaching out beyond ourselves, we've invited persons from different walks of life to gather on our pastor and to bring what they do, to bring and show us their gifts, whether it be in making baskets, candles, whether it be in growing herbs, whether it be in studying herbs so that they know the various healing herbs, whether it be exploring healing energy, no matter what it is. We've asked persons to come and to show us what they offer the world. Because we have come into a world now where we don't look at what we offer the world. We look at what the world can give us. Our concern is our bank accounts, not what we contribute. Like I was telling the congregation this morning, I was at a funeral sometime back, and this lady was giving a eulogy about a young woman who had died, a very young woman who had died. And she was saying that the woman was a fantastic cook. I don't know how Beijing eulogists, but all Beijing eulogists always tell you about the person, how they could cook. But anyway, they said she was a fantastic cook, but she was not always a cook. They said she was a seamstress. And the woman went on to say she was a very good seamstress, but she had to stop because she was making clothes for people and they weren't paying her. So she had to stop and become a cook and work in one of the institutions as a cook and be paid. And the woman didn't stop there. She went on to the next part. And she said, and I know that many of you in here still owe her for a dress. Right? And as I sat there that morning, I said to myself, how we interfere with God's giftedness to the world. God gives us a seamstress who will make our clothes, who will offer that as her contribution to our community. And we refuse. We take the dress or the whatever and we don't pay for it. So she stops. What does that mean? That means that the gift that God has offered is no longer present. It is now withheld. And so you ask yourself, as I reflected on that evening, I wonder how many other people in our world who have those wonderful gifts have withheld them only because we are such a self-centered people. How many? How many people? And you see it. You see it. You go to dressmakers and you see the things hanging up there. Some persons bring cloth and they tell them they want done, and then they never come back to even get measured. We see it. How do we change this? How do we change this? We're going through some harsh economic times now, and persons are lost because all of a sudden, that practice of turning up with a piece of paper and saying, I would like to work, it isn't working anymore. As a matter of fact, many are being released and they're lost. But this morning, there's some folks out there who have taken their lives into their own hands and they've decided, we want to contribute to the world. They probably don't make a lot of money, but they give themselves. And I'm sure that when they go to sleep at night, they rest well. Because they have given something to the community. They have used their God-given gift for the community. And so this morning, those of you who may be laid off, or those of you who might be laid off, or those of you who might retire, we ask you just to walk among them and to see how persons are using what God has given them. And realize that when I get 65, or they tell me 70 now, but when I get to some age, they will say, you are retired. I am no use. I always remember my dad riding his motorcycle for the funeral of the former Prime Minister, Tom Adams. And when he put that motorcycle down that evening, at the end of the funeral, he was no longer Sergeant Clark. He was a civilian. That was his last ride. And many of us have understood the last ride. And then you wonder why. But the thing is that if all through our lives we will remember that God has blessed me with some gift for the world beyond how I make money. And if we would learn to nurture that gift and carry that gift, we would be able to help in mothering our world, just as God mothers us. Our gift may not make a living for us, but it makes life. It gives you a reason to be. It is you. It is you. If we are to be good stewards of God's grace, it's not just, let me get what people think. It's not only, I forgive you. It's not, not, okay. It's not only just about the produce. It is about you. For in you is fruit. In you is fruit that desires to be nurtured, cared for, and harvested. God has planted in you and in me. And God is asking us to nurture what He has planted and bring it forth in due season, so that you may continue to assist in the work of God. I pray with earnest that we may truly reflect on what the circumstances around us are saying to us. And not be afraid. Because I know it's fearful, it's frightful at times. But try not to be afraid. But try to see what God is saying. The old people always say, when one door closes, right, another one opens. And so we've got to be prepared for that. We've got to understand that that's possible. Because we are people of God. And we know that God does not leave us nor forsake us. So let's begin again to find that which God has planted in us. Not just because of the economic circumstances, but even more so because today is Mothering Sunday and today is a day of harvest. And we ask ourselves, what am I harvesting? What am I harvesting? Remember this. Paul says, bear with one another. That's how I began. Bear with one another. In other words, in every circumstance, let the motherhood of God come out so that we can assist